Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Quinn. I'm a stay-at-home mom who runs a small business called Cat K Crochet. In this video, I'm gonna go over 5 brand new free Instagram amigurumi patterns and my thoughts on them. So I actually had a different video planned for this week. That one's taking a little bit too long, and I just wanted to put this one out here because I was actually working on these patterns anyways before I started realizing like, hey, these are all like kind of brand new patterns that just got released. I'm sure that you guys can relate to opening Instagram and using the search feature, and then you just instantly see free pattern written on a bunch of posts. So as I saw a bunch of those, I started collecting the ones that I thought might be interesting to work on for my next show before I realized like, hey, a lot of these are brand new. If you're noticing what's going on over here, it was my daughter's 2nd birthday this last weekend, and we had for her a baby girl turns Totoro party. So it was all Totoro themed, and that's where this big guy comes in. So I made this gigantic Totoro. It's very large. Let me scoot back. I made this gigantic Totoro from a paid pattern on Etsy. The shop name is Pem Ami Shop. I think I'm saying that correctly. And this pattern's so good that it's the only thing that shop sells on their Etsy. They only have this one listing. The pattern is so detailed. There are so many videos and little detailed instructions, and this guy is massive. So I made this Totoro out of Bernat blanket, and I used a 6.5 hook. And he is enormous. He's like the size of my daughter. Custom made these eyes to go inside of him. I was actually really wanting to do some felt outlines like what's inside of the actual pattern from Etsy, but I didn't have any white felt available. So I made these eyes. I think the eyes definitely make him not look exactly like the character. The pattern also warns you to not let him have a round head. He needs to have a flat head, and mine still came out round. And if I press on his head, his ears do this. The arms aren't stuffed, so he has like this nice little floppy arm action. And you do stuff the little tail, so it's kind of nice because he stands up by himself with his tail as a little kickstand. My daughter was hugging him and she told me, "Mama, I love my new Totoro." So that's really sweet. I absolutely 100% recommend this pattern if you're looking to make a gigantic Totoro. And if you're not a fan of working in color changes, there's actually instructions in the pattern to make the belly patch as a separate piece that you sew on, which is really neat. I don't see options like that in a lot of patterns, so I thought that that was really cool. And he is a big chunky boy. So moving on to the free patterns that I want to talk about. First one is for this mini Noo Posum. This is from the pattern designer Tinkering Crochet. And inside of their display picture for this pattern, they actually have them on a keychain, which I think that this size would be great for a backpack buddy. This Big Twist Posh for this design. Thank you so much to the people who reached out to me personally to tell me that Big Twist Posh was in stock on Joanne's website, because I did order myself some. It's a size 4.5 hook, and this guy works up really fast. I timed myself and it was 20 minutes. The only thing I don't really like about this pattern is that you make the ears separate. The ears are just magic circles. You make them separate and you just thread the strings from the magic circles through and then make them knot. It does make the ears like this nice round shape, but I think I would rather just completely make the possum and then go back and do a slip stitch, chain 2, slip stitch back in, and then just do some half double crochets or something inside of that chain to make like a half rounded ear, rather than pull through the strings and knot it and deal with the ears twisting so much. So just for funsies, and also to completely defeat the point of making a mini Noo Posum, I made one with Bernat. This one with Bernat and a size 6 hook. And for this one, I gave him little X eyes. And I did that because I saw my friend Ashley from Going Crochetzy do some possums that had X eyes, and I thought that they were really cute and silly. I have used a different Instagram free possum pattern. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is between this mini version and that one, because in my memory, this one looks a lot like the other Instagram pattern, but it's a fine pattern, works up in about 20 minutes for me. And I can see myself doing more of these for the backpack buddy versions, or just to make this be a little tiny baby possum. And maybe I could find a pattern for like a bigger possum and then put a bunch of babies on its back. I don't know yet. The next pattern is for this pocket seal by Vanilla Gurumi. I made it in 2 different versions. This white color in Bernat is like really soft and buttery, and I feel like it just works up a tiny bit smaller, so I think I used a size 5.5 hook for this one. It's super easy. It's just a tube shape. This one you do make the muzzle as a separate piece, and then you sew it on before you complete the body. The muzzle, I believe, is just 6 stitches in a magic ring that you sew on separately. So when I made the second seal, I switched to a bigger hook and bigger yarn, Doing 6 stitches in the magic ring, I did 8 stitches, and then I went into the back loop of those 8 stitches, and then I did it again in the front loop, and then I started doing the pattern like normal, and that made the little muzzle stick out by itself without having to sew it on. And I don't feel like there's too much of a difference. Between the two versions. Like this one sticks out a little bit less and the muzzle's a little bit smaller. You could do 6 stitches inside the magic ring and then go into the back loops and then do the next row inside the front loops to get the same effect. I did it with 8 because the pattern for the body starts with 8 stitches. But I don't feel like there's too much of a difference and it gives the same effect. I still feel like this one's really cute. And this one actually took me less time than this one. So when I tie myself, this version of the pattern took me 32 minutes. This one took me 28 minutes. The tail you make in 2 pieces and then you sew onto the body. And I feel like this pattern is really cute and simple. And this is definitely something that I can add to my market makes. So the next one, I wouldn't really call it its own pattern. I would call it a mod to an existing pattern already. And that is this whale shark from A Wicked Stitch of the West. For this pattern, you make a mini whale like the free All From Jade whales, and then you make a separate mouthpiece, which you stitch onto the body, and the tail goes up and down in this pattern, and then you have 2 fins on the top. Other than those mods, it's very similar to a mini whale pattern. Works up really fast. Sewing on the mouth takes a little while, but I think if you made a bunch of whale bodies in different colors, you can make some of them into whale sharks, you can make some of them into killer whales, you can make some of them into regular sharks, all from just using the same little mini whale pattern. And I'm not going to complain about someone taking something that was already made and putting a little spin on it, especially since the original whale pattern is free already. They're putting their own creative twist on it. And then we're going to go on a trip to Blob Town and we're going to talk about the next pattern. This next pattern is by Sophie Tiny Crochet. This is for little fruit frogs. These are no-sew patterns. And it makes these cute little blobby bobble stitch fruit frogs. Super fast to work up. I didn't time myself to make these. I'm sure it was like 10 minutes. You just add different details depending on what fruit you want. A different crown mod for like a berry fruit or if you want to do a citrus fruit. These 2 smaller frogs I made with Posh yarn and a size 4.5 hook. And then just for funsies, I made a really big one. This is with Michael's Home. This one I made with the Michael's yarn, not the slim kind, this one, the big giant one. I got this for $2 on Facebook Marketplace and I'm just looking for things to use with it. I made 1 jumbo frog. I definitely think he looks like a big blob, especially because I didn't even follow the pattern to make him look like a fruit. I just made him a regular frog, but still quick and easy to work up. I definitely think that the fruit ones are a little bit cuter, but since I am in market prep mode, I'm thinking about how easy things are to make and how fast they are to make and what I can sell them for at market. And I think for the fruit ones, I would definitely need to make like a lot of them and not just have 1 frog in order for people to understand what they are, that they are supposed to look like fruits versus just 1 big fat frog. I could probably just make like 2 of them and people would be like, okay, that's just a big fat frog. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and make a bunch of these and have them all together on my table. Just waiting for those new colors of Posh to come out so I can make more frogs, I guess. Maybe not all the way in Blob Town, but like definitely on the outskirts is this next pattern. This is by Veerkat AV Sophie, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, for her Flower Garden Fellow. This pattern was originally released in a crochet along, but since then the crochet along has ended and she's released this pattern as well as 2 other versions to make ones with different hats. I believe one is a mushroom and one is a strawberry, I think. I did the flower one because I wanted to use this color of yarn that I had. So this is all in Bernat. I used a size 6.5 hook. The brim of my hat is a little bit more curved than their photo. Their photo, the brim is like very straight. I don't mind it very curved like this. I think it looks really cute. Before I started working on the body, this was like a child size hat. My daughter was asleep at the time, but if she was awake, I would have put this hat on her head for sure. The pattern's very well written. I wouldn't say it works up fast because I think that the highest stitches in 1 round was 48. And it definitely is very large inside of Bernat. But it's also not something that I could see myself making with smaller yarn just because it does take a while. I'd rather use the same amount of time making something with bigger yarn so that I could make a little bit more of a profit on it. And I made these eyes that I used inside of it. I made these eyes. These eyes are pink holographic glitter with holographic butterflies and a flower. I've never actually made a mushy boy pattern before. I know that that's something that people recommend as a quick market make. I think that that pattern might look really nice with this guy on a table. Like maybe like she can be like their leader and have like a bunch of little mushy boys around. I really do like working on bigger items, so I really like this pattern. The only thing that I changed about it, because I can't leave things alone, the arms and legs of this pattern were supposed to be made out of triple crochet bobble stitches, and I switched to a regular double crochet bobble stitch for the arms and legs because I was worried that there was going to be too many big holes inside of like the triple crochet bobble stitch. And the only other thing that I didn't do is sew down the green portion of the stem on the flower, which maybe I'll do and maybe I won't. I really like the patterns that I tried. I didn't find any mistakes, but I also wasn't looking at them like super critically to like try to find mistakes inside their patterns. I'm just grateful that these designers put out free patterns for us to try. If I had to pick a favorite from the patterns that I tried, it might be the seal, and I think that's because it was so simple and fast to work up, and I feel like I can definitely make the most amount of profit off of this pattern, especially if I make it in a bigger yarn like Bernat. And then just as an aside, I have been stuffing all of these with Crafter's Choice Polyfill Dry Polyester Fiber Fill. And I have to say again how much I do not like this stuff. It bunches up when you stuff things. I don't know if you can even like see what I'm talking about when I'm touching this, but clings to itself and compacts really easily. So when you're stuffing an item, you know, when you put the stuffing in and you go around the perimeter with your hands pressing up the stuffing, it move down like into crevices very easily. You have to actually like force it in there and then keep it put, because the stuffing clings to itself so much that it just becomes like a compact wad inside of the toy. And when you're trying to like break it up to move it around to the sides, it just stays in like these big clumps. It's hard to explain, but I'm really not a fan of this type of polyfill. It's actually just really hard to like pierce the stuffing with the crochet hook or even the darning needle to tuck inside your ends. It's just not nice. It's not nice and compliant and smooth like the regular polyfill. That's just me complaining. Warning you in case this goes on sale and you think it's like a good buy. I wouldn't recommend it. I'll have all these patterns listed down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back later this week with a market prep video about what I'm bringing to my 4th of July show. See you later.